What is going on, Alpha Hunters? Hope everybody's having a very marvelous Monday from a very marvelous weekend. Yes, football is completely back. So hopefully you get a good weekend. My fantasy team did not. All right. Nice gap up on the market today. Woo. All right, here we go. See, we had about a point, about 3/4% gap up there on the SPY. Traded higher there for the first roughly 45 minutes. But then over the past 45 minutes, we are trading lower. All right. So that's kind of how things are going today. Let's see what kind of things we need to be aware of this week. Used cars prices, that's actually a interesting metric to kind of keep track of. It kind of lets you know about like consumer confidence. There you go. That's what I was looking for. Like consumer confidence type of metric. Like if people aren't buying used cars, man, it is really sketchy for the economy. If so, anyways, used cars prices came in at three negative year over year. This is a year over year number. Came in negative 3.9%. So used car prices dropped. Now month over month they actually went up 1.2%. So there you go. So the kind of like two ways to look at this. If used car prices have kind of not been increasing all that much, and then all of a sudden you start to see used cars prices increase, it kind of can give you two things to kind of look at. One, there's either really a drop off in supply of new cars, so people have to turn to used cars, or people are getting real tight and can't afford new cars. So a little bit more things that need to be looked at there. Obviously, one is not really like a bad economic measurement, right? If people like if new car makers are not making new cars, then obviously they have to turn to used cars. So that's not really like a bad thing for the economy per se. But if people are turning to used cars because they can't afford new cars, so I would say, if you're looking at this data point, you also need to look at then new car sales. New car sales are dropping off, and new car inventory. Like if there's no inventory out there for used cars, then you'd expect used cars to kind of go up. But if there is new car inventory, then used cars going up is not a good thing. So, anyways, moving on. What else do we kind of got this week? Kind of going on. NBA core CPI. So we'll get inflation data Wednesday, along with the energy stuff that we normally get on Wednesday. There you go. Then we'll get PPI Thursday, the typical CPI, PPI back-to-back days. And then, the weekly jobless claims, some mortgage rate stuff, import, export prices, Michigan consumer sentiment survey. So there you go. That's kind of the stuff that we'll get this week. So we'll just get more inflation data this week. CPI, PPI prints. All right. Let's see how things are going in the Qs world. Qs, man, they got wrecked here over the past 45 minutes. They were actually doing pretty well here. Nice little gap up, about 0.9, a little bit over a 0.9% gap up there. But the past 45 minutes really kind of getting hit, coming back down. Not quite negative, but the sideways choppiness that we had Friday, second half of the day, that's kind of where it just retested into. So let's see if it gets the bounce here, goes higher. IWM, yeah, I mean, it's got some tops in here from Friday afternoon, so that's kind of where it's retesting into. Didn't really have a huge gap this morning, even traded a little bit negative there on the open, but did move higher. So, honestly, I'd be leaning into, like, if you're going to look for a day trade, this is not a bad spot for the Qs and the IWM. Some of these are kind of hitting into some previous kind of resistance levels, and so you change that direction with that early morning pop or that gap up, and it's not looking too bad. DIA is looking pretty strong. Nice gap up there on the DIA. Nice push higher. How much should we gap up here on the DIA? DIA gapped up about 0.7%, but did trade higher. A little bit more of a sideways kind of price action here. Looks pretty good. I would not be surprised this continued higher here over the next hour. RSP looking pretty good here too. Okay, RSP, nice gap up, roughly a almost a 0.5% gap up there on the open, traded higher, kind of a little bit of a double top. Could also be, a little bit of a flag pattern, kind of just quickly pulling back there. So, okay. RSP actually holding kind of tough. And that is kind of back to what we had been seeing over the previous couple weeks, not last week, but over the previous couple weeks. And yeah, so RSP holding pretty good, bouncing up into the moving averages. Makes sense. It's a little bit choppy. Now it's got to fight through those moving averages to get back in the bullish direction. DIA, man, look at that gap up there on the DIA, looking very strong. Okay, IWM came down, filled this gap that we had open from middle of August. Not exactly a strong move higher. It's kind of hanging down at the lows of Friday, but could definitely bounce by the end of the day. Q's lagging behind. Had a nice gap up, but has gotten sold off, which is rather interesting. Okay. So Q's still seeing some weakness out there. SPY gapped up, hitting that 50 EMA. Let me put on the long terms. So yeah, that's a really bad look for the SPY, right? You got below that 50 EMA, then you bounce, and now you recess into that 50. And so it's like we broke down. Here's the retest. Do we roll over? Back lower? It's possible. Q's, yeah, it came down to this level. Or the Q's Q's kind of consolidated sideways, moved right on top of that 100, and then broke down on Friday last week. So, yeah, I think we'll get a little bit of a bounce here this week, especially with inflation data. Inflation data has been trending down over the past couple of months. So as we get inflation data this week, I'd imagine the market's kind of bullish on it. I don't think that's going to be a great thing for the economy if inflation's not holding well. I think people are just not buying as much. VIX, VIX, VIX. Yeah, a little bit of a lower open this week. Typically, it doesn't happen on Mondays, but we're also not down in the teens, a little bit higher. Okay, and we did have a nice gap up this morning. So DXY, dollar bouncing. Had a huge lower wick there on Friday. Dollar bouncing. Okay. Dollar looking pretty strong, the DXY. Okay. GLD still just kind of holding sideways. Yeah, still just kind of, man, look at this pennant that we are forming here. So, yeah, we're getting kind of tight in there. Okay. 10-year yields having a hard time. Still just kind of flat, hanging out. A little bit of an upper wick today. Let's see what's going on there. 10-2 inversion. Not really doing too much. Just kind of hanging out. So all the yields are kind of moving together. HYG. Nice little lower wick. Very small day today. Not a lot of movement. Probably might not see much movement on yields, dollar, gold, that kind of stuff until we get to maybe like Wednesday. When we get the what do you call it? CPI type data. LQD looking pretty good. Kind of just hanging in sideways. TLT kind of just hanging out, not really doing a whole lot. All right, taking a look here. See how sector rotation is going for the day. Underperformers, communications, utilities, healthcare, and tech underperforming. Staples, real estate outperforming a little bit. Energies, materials, discretionaries, financials, and industrials outperforming on the day. As far as intraday price performance, I'll be curious to see how this is. Yeah, tech, lower end of the day, kind of makes sense. Communications as well, also lower end of the day. What is this that kind of reversed out? Is that, I'm trying to see if this is utilities. Utilities was getting hit early on. And nice little run there, kind of about 40 minutes after the market opened. It actually did pretty well. Utilities outperforming though. Healthcare, financials, discretionaries, materials, industrials, staples, real estate, and energies at the higher end of the day. All right. That coincides with the Qs. That is what I saw. Interesting. That match is pretty stinking close. So yeah, this is about what I saw this weekend, and it matches pretty closely. It's not exact. It never will be. Right? I mean, it's never exact. But if we do get a bounce maybe this week, you're probably looking to probably close out maybe if history repeats itself. I mean, we did have a pretty good drop off there in August on the Qs. It definitely was a little bit more aggressive than what we had back in 2007 when we kind of topped out. But I mean, back then we did have a pretty wicked like sell off there from the top, like over 3-4 days. This is, and I'll be pretty honest, this is kind of jiving with what I was thinking at the end of last week. I was like, I don't think we're gonna just rip lower, but I think we'll get like a bounce. People tried to buy the dip here. I think that's going to be the indication of what are you going to want to do once we get a bounce. Maybe you do close some stuff out.